Hey everyone, Greg here. As you may know by now, I'm the co-founder and CEO of TripShock, an online reseller for water sports and tours. For the past 12 years, we've had the pleasure of working with hundreds of operators across the country, and we're looking to grow our community. It's free to sign up, and you only pay when we bring you confirmed bookings. We'll help you reach new customers, fill empty seats, and grow your business like so many have done with us over the years. Head over to partners.tripshock.com to learn more about our program, read testimonials, or speak directly with our supply team. As always, thank you for listening and enjoy the show.
They come to relax, enjoy the beach, have fun, and spend money. And that's where we come in. This is the Awkward Watersport Guys podcast. Find out tips on the best ways to market and operate a water sports business. If you're a water sports operator, you need to grow your brand, operate more safely, upgrade your operations, and of course, increase bookings. We're industry veterans, broadcasting from Destin, Florida. This is the Awkward Watersport Guys podcast. And this is Kevin O'Neill and Greg Fisher.
Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 34 of the Awkward Watersports Guy podcast. Today we're going to be talking with Justin Buzzi, CEO and founder of Get Up and Go Kayaking, based out of Orlando, Florida. Get Up and Go Kayaking has 13 locations across the state of Florida, and we're going to be talking about water sport franchising because it's something that that's not really popular in our sector, but we're starting to see more companies come up with these franchise ideas. So it's like a good time to do it, especially since coming out of the pandemic, people are getting access to loans and money. Interest rates are cheap. So if anyone's listening and looking to start a business, this is I think a great show to kind of understand how this all works. Or if you're an existing business and you're thinking about franchising, Justin brings some different perspectives and shows us kind of what he did on his journey.
I don't know. You've wrapped it up, dude. I got fucking nothing. Thanks, Greg. Thanks for taking the intro and the outro, you fucking mic hog. No, it was a great show. It was illuminating. You'll get that joke later when you listen to the show. It really was. I'm definitely one of those people that were really interested in what the franchise business model looks like and how to achieve that. And I don't think that anybody that has any kind of aspirations hasn't thought about second, third, fourth, fifth locations. And then you think to yourself, how am I going to manage like running all of this stuff? So Justin definitely gave a lot of insight. He dropped a lot of knowledge bombs, for the younger generation. So you old, awkward water sports guys out there like myself, pay attention to this kid because he's pretty smart.
It's pretty crazy. He's 29 years old.
Yeah.
He's already developed this company. He's growing. I think he says he has 2 more locations on the way, and he knows so much. He's not even 30 years old yet, and that's really awesome. But you can tell he's a hustler, and that's really what you got to do. I don't think age doesn't necessarily matter as much as how hard you want to hustle, and he wants it pretty bad.
So what do you say, Greg? You ready to get awkward?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's go.
All right, guys, we're here with founder and CEO of Get Up and Go Kayaking, Justin Buzzi. Justin, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's up, guys?
So, Justin, you're going to have to help me fill in the blanks because I'm going to go through your resume.
Oh.
But you are a UCF alumni, graduated in 2013, bachelor's in business.
Yep.
You are, obviously, just like I said, you're the CEO of Get Up and Go Kayaking. You guys have 13 franchises, all here in Florida, and you started it in about 2018. And a couple other things that I wanted to bring up that I know are not somewhat business related, but you are a hip hop artist. And I believe you got a hip hop album out there because I listened to some of your songs, which are very good, by the way.
Thank you.
You have a podcast, Building a Buzz podcast, which if you don't already know about it, go to Apple Podcasts and start listening. And also you have a Twitch channel for gaming, which that's something I accidentally stumbled upon on your Twitter. And I watched you game for like 20 minutes. So there's one other thing I saw was kind of interesting, and maybe we can get into it in the show, but you worked for Golf Now for a couple of years. And if anyone doesn't know what Golf Now is, they're like a hybrid OTA. They book tee times. They have technology that allows golf courses to sell like discounted tee times or manage their bookings. Justin obviously can probably do a much better description than that, but I always thought that was an interesting concept that Golf Now has done for the golfing industry. But that's kind of cool. That you had different positions with Golf Now, which I'm sure might have helped Get Up and Go.
Definitely.
So Justin, fill in the blanks. Obviously I just told your story, but fill in the blanks. How'd you get into kayaking franchise, or what inspired you to go down that path?
Yeah, for sure. So I think my journey kind of all started when I was back in high school and first started picking up a microphone and first started making music. A couple of my older buddies in school were making music, and they were kind of like the cool kids, and I was like a freshman and I wanted to be cool, and I was like, I could probably do that, and growing up, I listened to like a lot of Eminem, Lil Wayne, and stuff like that. So I started making music, and, through that process, you really learn how to market yourself, market the brand that you're building, create relationships, network, all of that stuff. And so that started when I was in high school. And then I really started taking that seriously as I got into college at UCF, which, like you said, I went and studied business, specifically marketing at UCF. And then as I graduated there, I was kind of like, okay, what's the next step in life? You're getting to graduation and you're like, okay, now it's time to pull up my big boy pants and pay my own bills and, and find my own place and all these things. So I had to figure out how to make ends meet. And obviously at the time, music was not going to be able to be my only income. I would make a little bit of money off of it, but not enough to live off of. I was working at a golf course here in Orlando, and that's where I met someone that worked for Golf Now, and that's how I built that relationship with them. And eventually, after I graduated, I asked them if I could go work for Golf Now, and I had to go through an interview process. I actually got denied my first time that I interviewed there, and then I went back and interviewed like 6 months later and got a job just as a customer service representative when I first started there.
Man, you weren't like hustling. You weren't hustling like your tapes outside of Disney World with those guys. You know what I'm talking about? Those guys like trying to sell their shit, their mixtapes.
Yeah. Like I always think of the people like in California. If you've ever been to like Venice Beach, there's people on the boardwalk that hand you their CD and say, "Give me $5 or give me that back." I'm not that kind of person. I'm just like, take my CD, and if you don't throw it in the trash can, I love you for that. I did hustle hard with that for a while, and like I would go to plenty of rap shows that were like downtown Orlando, and I would wait outside the venue. When the rap show got let out, I would have a backpack with 1,000 CDs, and I would hand out every single CD that I have. Like I said, you end up seeing a lot of them on the ground, like 10 feet away. I'm like, why did you even take a CD? But it also like gives you that thick skin that you really need in the business world. It taught me a lot about just talking to people. You can really recognize like how someone's going to receive you before you even talk to them if you go through that situation enough. And so I feel like that scenario gave me a lot of like insight on how to talk to people, how to like network with other people in a face-to-face type of setting. So it did teach me a lot, and I hustled hard for it. There was plenty of awkward situations that, came up when I was in person trying to hand out CDs to people. And, I accidentally handed out a CD to one of the guys that I was opening for one time, and I didn't recognize him. He's like, "Yeah, I don't really want this." And I'm just like, "Okay, thanks for letting me know."
This guy,
so.
Man, it's something we rarely talk about on the show. Every once in a blue moon, I talk about it, but I think the art of sales gets lost in the digital marketing world, because everything's been sort of like flipped on its like inverse, right? So it used to be like 80-20 principle, 80 on sales, 20 on marketing. And now it's just not the case anymore. Everyone's going to do their due diligence, but there's still something when you talk to people, when you're talking about being out and handing out CDs to people, it's like this law of averages. You get to learn how to read people. And that's an asset that, as I think we get further and further into this sort of like personless customer service world that we're sort of in right now, where rarely do we talk to people anymore. You're always kind of like, doing stuff online. I rarely talk to anybody on the phone anymore, but regardless, I think when you're talking and you're training your people and trying to teach this to your staff, or even in your case, your franchisees, that's a real valuable skill set. And the only way you get that is from, quite literally you being on the street, I know for Greg, I mean, Greg, you still have to go like wine and dine your partners. Yeah. Like in person.
Sure do. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So that's awesome, man. I really like that part of your story.
Yeah, 100%. And just Greg, real quick to touch on that, like that helped me so much when I first started the company, when I was giving the tours myself, like I was the owner operator. It helped me like so much more than I would have ever thought that it would. And being able to read people as they're, as I'm checking them in, and even as we're out on the waterway with them, like it just helped a whole lot. So it saved me a lot of time and a little bit of learning because of that.
Justin, now walk us through, you are at golf now, or maybe you left golf now, and that's about the time that you're starting Get Up and Go, or maybe got your first location going. How do you go from starting Get Up and Go? Was it always planned on being a franchise, or did you think, I think I can actually franchise this?
Yeah. So the timeline there, I started working for Golf Now in 2015. And I actually started Get Up and Go kayaking in 2016, and then the franchise not until 2018. But I worked at Golf Now for a year and a half while I started Get Up and Go kayaking. So I was working 5 days a week, 8 in the morning till 5 p.m., doing the corporate grind. And then after work, I would go give a sunset tour or go give a bioluminescent tour. And then on the weekends, I would go out to the springs and give tours at the springs. And so literally for a year and a half, like when it was bioluminescent season, I gave tours at 10 p.m., midnight, and 2 a.m. And I would get back home at like 4:30 in the morning. I drove an hour and 15 minutes to go give an hour and a half tour or 3 hour and a half tours back to back to back. And then I would drive an hour, 15 minutes back home. I would take all the kayaks out of my trailer, wash them in my apartment's car wash, and then I would go to sleep for like 3 hours and then go back to Golf Now for, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and do it all over again the next day. So I grinded that out for a year and a half before I eventually quit my job at Golf Now. But I was a hard worker. Like at Golf Now, I never let anything slip through the cracks. Like I tried not to even let them know that I was working myself this hard. I didn't want them to know. And I actually got 4 different promotions while I was at Golf Now. When I started, there was 24 people doing my job. And when I left, I was the only one doing my job. So I was efficient, even though I was tired all the time. And eventually in 2017, it was time for me to be like, all right, I need to make this next step. We were starting to get busy enough to where I was losing out on business, like during the weekdays when I was at Golf Now. I couldn't go give a tour during the week. So I was like, okay, now's the time. I got to take that step. So I did. I put in like my 2 weeks, which actually ended up being like a month because they needed me to stay longer. They offered me a $25,000 raise to stay with the company. And I was like, oh shit, what do I do? I'm like, that's a lot of money that's guaranteed compared to taking this leap on something that hopefully works out, but to me, like my personal life is super important. And I knew that if I could do the kayaking thing and have more of a personal life, I'd be happier than doing all of these things and trying to, get some free time out of it. And so that happened in 2017. I quit in September 2017 at Golf Now and focused fully on the company. But that's also when Hurricane Irma came through and put me out of business for like a month and a half. So I had like quit my job. I'm like, all right, this is great. And then the hurricane comes through and literally I did nothing for like a month and a half. Thankfully, during this time is when we first started going viral. Insider picked up some of our videos and asked if they could share it on their Instagram and Facebook. Of course, we said, yes, why not? And so they posted it. Within 3 days, it had like 4 or 5 million views. I was getting like 200, 300 emails a day. I was getting 200 plus phone calls a day, but I couldn't do anything because the hurricane just came through. So like trees were down in the waterways. Like it just wasn't, I couldn't get out on the water. And so this allowed me time to really fine tune my process. At the time, I was still using like Google Calendar to book my tours. And like I was allowing people to pay after the tour and would hope that they showed up, and all these things. Like I didn't really have a cancellation policy. I was still learning all of these things. And that really made me figure these things out. And this is also when I hired my first tour guide. And so a lot of things happened right at the end of 2017, but that's really when like we started going viral, and it had me thinking like, okay, what's the next step in this whole process? Like, people are asking me, hey, can we go clear kayaking in this spring? And I didn't have a location there. So I'm like, do I want to do this myself and kill myself with the workload, like driving around to all these different places? Or do I want to hire someone to do that? Or do I want to franchise? And so ultimately, that's when I made that decision, like that I wanted to franchise. I didn't really know until we started getting as busy as we were, till we were getting the inquiries about different locations and where we could do this. And then I really started seeing like, okay, this could be, I could repeat the same business idea that I have at all these different locations and make them successful if I just follow the same steps that I've done with my first one. All
right, quick question. So when you're doing these tours, you guys are rolling up to like a public access point?
Yeah. So now each of the situations are a little bit different, but when I first started, I was pulling up to a privately owned kayak and canoe rental location, and I would just pay them the daily like launch fee per kayak that they asked for. And over time, I built that relationship with them to be like, eventually now we like keep our trailer there, instead of have to drive back and forth and that kind of stuff. And my other location, the bioluminescent one, is in like a national wildlife refuge. So I had to go through permitting and get that stuff done. But each of the locations is a little bit different based on like if it's county owned, if it's state owned, if it's nationally owned, if it's privately owned. So it's kind of hit or miss on how that works. But for me, it just worked out well that it was privately owned. They were welcoming enough to allow me to launch out of there as long as I was paying the fee. And, I kind of stayed out of their way and just brought them extra money for them not having to do any extra work. And my marketing, they could really see that I was doing it well, and it ended up helping them out, especially through like the winter seasons back then that weren't that busy.
Why kayaks? Why not paddle boards or jet skis? Is there a specific reason why you decided to start with kayaks?
Yeah. So the idea of the whole company came about when my fiance, then girlfriend, and I were at Blue Springs up in DeBary, Florida, which is kind of in the middle of nowhere, but about an hour north of Orlando. We were there one day, and we got up early. We drove like an hour and 15 minutes to get there. We get there. The state park ranger was like turning everyone away, saying, "Hey guys, we're at capacity. Come back in 4 hours and maybe we'll let you in." I'm like, what am I going to do in DeBary, Florida for 4 hours? There's nothing around, So we drove back home, hung out in the pool. And I was like, I wonder if there's kayak companies that are like Uber, where you can just like rent one somewhere and they'll bring it to you. And I had all these ideas in my head, and I'm trying to figure out like what's out there. So I do a lot of market research and figure out like a lot of the kayaking people in my area were not very social media savvy. And I was like, that's something that I could do better than what I'm seeing. And same with the websites. They were all like outdated. The booking was weird. They was clunky. And I was just like, I feel like I could do this so much better. Then I had the idea in my head. I think we had seen like clear kayaks somewhere online before. And we were both like, what if we did clear kayaks in the clear spring water and also in the bioluminescent water that lights up out in Titusville? No one was doing it. There was no clear kayak tour companies in Florida at the time. And so I was like, let me just take a risk on this and see if it works. And there wasn't any really ever thought of me like trying to do a boat rental or a jet ski or a paddleboard. It was just the thought of the visual of how a clear kayak would look in clear water sold it to me before thinking about like doing paddleboarding or anything else. So it was kind of just like a right place, right time. I got turned away, and then we were just talking about it all day. And literally from that day that we got turned away until when I started the company was only 2 weeks. So like I dug in deep for those 2 weeks and was like, let me do as much research as possible. Let me figure out where to buy these. I went to SunTrust and took out a $12,000 loan so I could buy them and get the trailer and like get everything set up. And So I had to figure everything out. It's not like I was like already in the industry at all. It was, just a kind of on the whim type of situation.
So let me I just want to backtrack here. So you're just basically like going to basically like dope spots and just how do you choose that? Does the customer choose that? Like how would you initially decide where you were going to go? Like,
yeah, the one for me when I first started was Rock Springs. That was like my first location. And that was just because I had been there and paddled in a normal kayak and saw how pretty it was and was like, this would be a great spot to do clear kayaks. And same with the bioluminescent location. My fiance actually took me on a tour with one of my now competitors before I even started the company. And I was like, man, this is freaking awesome. And then when the clear kayak thing came into mind, I was like, thinking how cool it would be to do clear kayaks through the bioluminescence. And so when I first started, it was only 2 locations. It was only Rock Springs and the bioluminescent location. Now it's, 13 locations, but when I first started, it was just those 2. And so people could only go to those 2. But like I was saying, people wanted to go to all these other locations. And that's what got me thinking about franchising is people would hit me up and be like, hey, I want to take these clear kayaks out in Weeki Wachee. Hey, I want to take these out at Blue Springs. Hey, I want to take them out here. And so that's what really got my wheels moving on becoming a franchise.
There's actually a clear kayaking company in Key West, believe it or not.
Yeah. I've seen them before. I forget the name of them, but I have
Clearly Unique.
Clearly Unique, yep.
Yeah, but man, I looked at those videos of the bioluminescent tours, and I was like, very rarely am I like, does that look dope, man? Like, I don't leave my house when I don't go to work. Like, the water's the last place I fucking want to be ever. But when I saw that, I was like, man, that looks so fucking cool, man. It was like on your Instagram, but it was shot really well, and I mean, dude, props, man. Rarely do I say it. Rarely do I vocalize, you're good. And in my heart, I'm not hating on him like, man, this fucking guy, that's pretty good.
I appreciate it. And I should say part of this whole process, like when I was quitting Golf Now, I, over time have learned how to like shoot music videos and shoot photos for other like artists and stuff. And so that was kind of in my back pocket to know that like I could take really cool videos of these locations as we're getting them going. And thankfully, like I've just honed in on that passion and been able to use that in order to kind of leverage our social media content. And so I greatly appreciate your compliment.
Your video was dope, man. When you were like in the red, white, and blue, and you got the girl going fast walking on the fucking stairs, bro. I'm like, God, I hate this fucking guy, man. Look, he's all young and good looking and shit with his American flag shirt.
Oh my God.
I'm like, Greg, cancel this guy right now, dude. I'm not having this little fucker on the show. All Ricky Martin looking ass motherfucker. No, man, respect. Like that, the production videos, the production quality on all your shit, man, was like really good, and the music too. I was shocked by not only the video but the audio too, man. I was like,
thank you.
That was some money in the studio there, I bet.
Thank you.
But it translates into your company, man. So it's shit. You will have to have me on Mentored with you as the coach.
I love it.
So Justin, we talked about this in the pre-show, and I think this is the question you said that you like the most. What do you say to people that say, I can just buy 10 clear canoes and find a really cool location and just do it myself? Why do I need to be part of a franchise and pay franchise fees? What do you say to those people?
Flex.
Yeah, I usually say good luck, but no. The biggest thing for me is like, I try to ask people, would you rather kind of start from zero, or would you rather start with a company that's successfully done it 13 times over? And at this point, like we have 50,000 followers on Instagram, we've got 20,000 on our email list, we've got a bunch on Facebook. We have over 130 million video views, which is kind of unheard of in being a company in the outdoor recreation industry. We've gone viral over and over and over again. And so we have that. We have those connections. Like I have direct connections to like BuzzFeed, to Yahoo, to AOL, to Insider, to Travel and Leisure, to like every one of those outdoor companies that are posting viral content. I have direct email phone call contacts with these people. So what happens is like we get really cool footage. I send them over a quick email. 2-3 days later, it's up on Facebook or Instagram on their channels and just instantly directing us more traffic. So, I don't want to say that that's hard to compete against. I just think that it's very special that we have that and can be able to do that. And just over time, we've gotten very, very good at like our marketing. We've done lots of trial and error, kind of like with you guys in Trip Shock. Like you have so many clients and so many things that you guys have tried and erred for people that they don't have to do it themselves. Like you're saving people money because you've already done it multiple times. So like for us, we've done the Google ads multiple times. We've done the Facebook ads. We kind of know what works and what doesn't work at this point, and we really just focus in on those. And then also like I've learned how to keep the operations cost like super, super low. Typically our locations have either 6 to 12 clear kayaks. We're usually a mobile business. So we have a trailer and we have tour guides and our marketing. And like, that's pretty much it for expenses beyond like the fixed stuff, like insurance and waiver fees and that kind of stuff. But there's not a whole lot of expenses. And we've figured that process out, I think, really, really well. And so like, over time, we've also accrued like 3,500 plus 5-star reviews. And it's like, you're not starting out from zero almost if you're considering franchising. You're starting out with that in your back pocket, and also direct connects to me, who has done it at 13 locations, and all of our franchisees who are doing it every day. And, we have like Facebook groups where we internally chat about things, about Airbnb, about TripAdvisor, about booking softwares, about fees, about this, about that. And so you get access to everything. And I think it just helps like knowing that we're all here to make you succeed. Like we all want to see each other succeed. And it's great when you have a group of people that want to do that.
Do you find yourself as a mentor then to all of your franchisees, it's or a business coach somewhat, like they're calling you and letting you know about challenges and you're helping them, overcome them?
Yeah, definitely. It's a lot of that and just a lot of open conversation about things. And, I feel like monthly and weekly and different situations, I'm trying to challenge them to be better. It's not just they're on their own, doing their own thing. It's like, I'm here to push you guys to make you more successful. Obviously that helps me because I get a % of every one of the franchises. So it's like a mutually beneficial thing for both of us. But yeah, I feel like a lot of my time and effort with the current franchisees is going through some of those pain points and making sure that we're all on the same page with, our policies and cancellations and weather and all these different things. And a lot of the things that you guys have, already talked about on the podcast is like stuff that you have to make sure that you've kind of got in a row in order to be successful.
So tell me, do you have to be, so each one of your franchise have to have their own insurance, correct?
Yeah, so they're all individually insured. They list me as like additionally insured, and that kind of stuff. So it's nice for me because it's not like I'm taking on all this liability, for every location that we're opening. They're kind of doing it all themselves. But the good thing with that is like, since there's 13 of us getting insurance plans, we can usually kind of haggle a bit of a better rate because there's a lot of us, all going to the insurance provider. Well,
the reason I asked that is because but you are liable then for every location though, correct?
Correct. Roundaboutly, yes. Like I believe people could probably find a way to make me liable, even though I had no say in it or whatever. Right. You guys know how attorneys can flip things and reword things, and I'm sure there's a loophole somewhere, but we try our best to make sure that everything is like, each location is individually liable for their stuff. But of course, like the overarching franchisor is at the end of the day, the one that's going to be fully responsible.
So Justin, we talked before and you gave permission to discuss some of the economics of the franchise. So walk us through, what's typically the startup costs to become a franchisee, royalty fees, marketing, kind of walk us through kind of how that process works.
Yeah. So when people are first interested, we kind of do like an introductory phone call, make sure that we're both feeling each other. It's almost like an interview for me. Like I want to make sure that I'm bringing someone on that's going to be a hard worker, that's going to go get it, that wants to do it, that loves the business, and that kind of stuff. But after that, we do the initial franchise fee is $30,000. And that does not include any of the equipment or anything like that. So the equipment is all separate, which ends up being about another 15 to 20 grand, depending on if you need to buy a vehicle or not. And so all in, you're looking at like $50,000. And then monthly, I do a 9% royalty on sales and then a 2% marketing fee. And so what that marketing fee does is that extra 2% that comes in, we just go back and use that from like the 50,000 follower Instagram account to remarket and retarget and just to do marketing stuff with it. And so it's nice when you've got, 10 plus different locations all funneling that kind of marketing money in. You can then go back and spend it on some really cool marketing things.
So to that point, are you developing sites for your franchisees? Like they have their own, is everything being booked directly through the main site and then the people are just booking their location? Is that sort of how it works?
Correct. Yeah. So I'm not building them their own website. But I did build our entire website and I'm the one that does all of our website updates and edits and everything. So they're getting a page on our website, which I think is beneficial because, organically we're getting 40,000+ users on our website every month. And so they're getting direct access to that. And yeah, they have their own location page on our website where then someone can book a tour for that location. The one pain point that I have with that and with my reservation software, which is Fair Harbor, is that the conversion flow is not smooth because we have all of these different Google ads funneling to our website. And then it doesn't necessarily know, like if I did a Google ad for my location and someone came, but booked a different location, we would still get a conversion, but it wouldn't know that it was for my location or someone else's. So it's a little bit difficult that we don't have our own website, like standalone websites, instead of all being under one. But beyond that, it's pretty helpful.
So your Fair Harbor landing URL, though, each location has its own landing URL, correct?
Hey,
so if
correct.
you go to Vero or whatever, so then couldn't you just put your pixel on that or include that pixel from that particular ad campaign on that final destination URL and track it that way?
The thing with Fair Harbor is that it's just the light box. So it like pops up on your page, but doesn't actually bring you through, like to a thank you page at the end. So it doesn't necessarily know exactly what page the customer finished on. It does know if they made a transaction or not. So we can track it pretty closely, but not 100% to a T.
Yeah. I heard this problem is from multiple Fair Harbor users. This is a known issue.
Yeah. That's like my only thing about it. And we've done a good job of like trying to decipher that as best as we could. But the problem was like, we used to have one book now page with everyone's Fair Harbor booking on it. And that did not work for tracking conversions. So having the individual pages set up for that has been much better to try and decipher all the data.
What are some of the biggest challenges you've faced so far?
Yeah. I would say like one, just making sure that everyone is on the same page with everything and the processes are like very similar across each location. We've, like kind of found how to make it successful. And I want a customer that comes to me have a very similar experience if they go to Kevin or if they go to Greg. Like, if you guys were both my franchisees, I want that experience to be similar in the sense that like the booking process is the same. The confirmation emails are kind of worded the same. The follow-up is the same. Like obviously the tours and the tour guides are going to be different, but like the whole experience as a whole, I want to make sure that it's pretty seamless across the board from all the locations. And so that means like training has to be done at each of the locations to make sure that that's there. Whenever they're hiring new tour guides, we got to make sure that like they're on board with the way that we give our tours. And I like to say our tours are more trying to get people to be our friends more so than, hey, this is a cypress tree, or hey, this is an osprey. You know, like, we do give educational stuff along the way, but we want people to walk away and be like, wow, I was just out on the water, had a great time, learned a little bit, want to help save the environment, but ultimately walk away feeling like, you know, that didn't feel like a transaction more so than it did just being out on the waterway with a friend of mine. And so getting that experience across the board has been a little bit of a challenge, but it's something that we're always working on.
So I got a two-part. One, did you do any like research on franchises before you got started? What were those? And two, do you have any like mentors that you don't know, that people that you read or follow that you really like?
Yeah. So first part, I did a bunch of research trying to figure out like, I had no idea. I've never been involved in a franchise, didn't know anything. So I had to do a lot of research. And so first thing I did was like text or call a bunch of friends that know business stuff. And I'm like, do you know anyone that is in a franchise that can just help answer some questions? Thankfully, one of my buddies knew someone that had like a cleaning business franchise. And so I reached out to him, picked his brain, got his thoughts on it. And then, of course, did like a bunch of YouTube podcast, actually research on franchise, and just listened to a bunch of stuff to try and figure it out. And eventually I found this company up in Atlanta called Franchise Marketing Systems, who helped me build the franchise. They did everything. They came down, did the tours. I brought them out. They were here for like 2-3 days. They built the whole operations manual. I filled in all the blanks on you know, a lot of stuff. But they did that, and then they built our franchise disclosure document, our non-disclosures, our, you know, everything from start to finish. And so it was a little bit of a learning curve for me, but thankfully, you know, just doing that kind of research helps you kind of figure that out. And, you know, I thought going into it, I was going to have to pay 70, 80 grand to become a franchise, whereas it ended up being like 30 grand to turn my company into a franchise. And then second part was, say that part again. Who
do you like out there? Like who, I mean, I'm assuming you read or listen to I obviously you listen to podcasts. So like I feel like we all sort of have, like you have mentors through reading and stuff like that. Maybe mentors that you don't know. So like who do you like? Who's out there? What books do you like? I mean, you're a big Ray Kroc guy, man, McDonald's CEO. I mean, he's like, did the whole franchise fucking thing, man. He did it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm not a big book reader, but I do love podcasts. I'm usually listening to a Gary Vee podcast in the car.
I knew it, man. I was like, I was like right at the show, man. I didn't want to interrupt you, but I was just like, when you're telling your backstory, I'm just like, this motherfucker loves Gary Vee.
Yeah. I mean, like he loves rap music, you know, he knows what he's doing with business. He knows what he's doing with marketing. And so I'm a big Gary Vee fan. I'm going to be honest. I'm not trying to blow smoke at either of you, but I've listened, like in the last 2 weeks, I've probably listened to half of the episodes that you guys have done. And they've honestly like made me think about some of the processes that we've done, that we do and should be doing, and made me start some conversations with our franchisees. So I do greatly appreciate that. And I don't know, like being in the Facebook groups is honestly one of the most helpful things that I think people can do if they're not in some sort of like tourpreneur group, outdoor activity operators and owner group, Awkward Watersports Guy podcast group, anything. Like they need to be in some sort of group and just interacting. Like everyone has questions every day about things that come up specifically for their business, and other people in these groups can answer your questions. You don't have to just sit there at home and be like, what do I do? There's people out here that are willing to help. So I think like I've gotten a lot of value from just being in Facebook groups over the last like 2 years since they've been popular.
You know, Justin, we were in that Arrival workshop, was it last year sometime?
Yeah.
And I remember you and I exchanged some emails, and you said that was one of the, out of like the whole virtual conference, that was probably the most beneficial moment, was 100%. Being in there and talking to other operators. And when you told me that kind of made a lot of sense. It kind of made me think that, you know, going to these conferences and listen to people speak, unless you got the right speaker, most of it, you're just sitting and and
it's stuff you've probably already heard somewhere.
You already heard of, yeah. But where you really get the good stuff is when you talk to people who've been doing it longer than you, or they have a different approach to things. And Kevin and I definitely are very progressive when it comes to the way we think and the different. I just got a message from someone from our Facebook group that tried the cancellation insurance and said he made $4,000 last month to cancellation insurance. He had a bunch of questions and he was really pumped about it. He sent a message and he was just saying, hey, it worked out really well. So I love when I'm hearing these things, because there is so much opportunity, so many different ideas. And when we can get in our group and share them all with each other, it makes us all better. So It's good to hear you say that. And like, we had Douglas Quimby on the last episode, and I'm really happy to see that in-person conferences are going to come back, because that's where I think we're really going to shine. We're all together. We're having fun. We're not, doing it through a computer or a phone. So that's, it's just going to help your business out when you're part of these trade groups.
It's so crazy. Me and Greg talk about it all the time. It's like, man, we can't believe the industry hasn't galvanized. Like, it's so weird. Like, there's like fucking plumbers conferences, I mean, for God's sakes, like, who fucking like, oh yeah, let's go to the plumbing conference. I don't care what you make. Like, that's not fun. We have like the greatest, most funnest, easiestly sold product. And I think that's probably the biggest problem with water sports. Why nobody, it's historically, as bizarre as it is, a cutthroat industry, but I think it's because we are on the opposite. We're on the opposite pole of the arrival folks, because like Douglas said, we were talking about, I'm like, well, why aren't people as involved in, like, why aren't water sports at Arrival? Why is it all these, like, I always call them the cheese tour guys, because I know it's wine tour, but I always think wine and cheese, like, the fucking cheese tour.
Yeah, right.
There's some just dude like driving around in his van, and it's fucking like he's just like trying to be the master of fucking SEO. Meanwhile, you got guys that are running, 7, 8 figure companies that are just like, fucking, what's SEO? You know what I mean? They're like, I got this paper flyer that I told my guys to go put on a windshield. Like, you're doing $12 million a year? Like, fucking how? And I think it's because, again, like this game has been around. It's still relatively young, like 80s, I think, mid 80s, early 80s. Commercial water sports really became like a thing with jet skis and parasails and kayaks. Like, even stand-up paddleboards, as benign as it seems, like stand-up paddleboards like started with YOLO and got popular from there. So it's, as bizarre it is, we don't have an industry, even though we probably make up like a ridiculous number for Florida for the amount of revenue that our companies collectively bring to the state. So I know me and Greg, that's basically our whole purpose of this, is to, like, without sounding like hella corny, but like, galvanizing the industry, like bringing people together. Like, we don't get anything out of this. I know Greg carries a lot of the load of the editing and that sort of stuff. And it's just like, sometimes he's just like, man, like, sometimes I feel like I'm devoting so much time to this. I'm not even like running my companies and shit,
Yeah.
But, we don't obviously see or get anything out of this, but it's just cool having all of this, like, kind of like happening and seeing people get together, because, guys like you, young entrepreneur, man, you really got your shit together. I really wanted to break your balls more, but man, you really, you have it well put together, my friend. And you coming on here, sharing this information in water sports, historically, it's always been like this kind of like, no, keep the secrets. Don't divulge anything. Don't tell anything. Like, I've had other operators go like, well, yeah, I can give you that. And I'm like, oh, you're going to share a secret with me? Like, meanwhile, I'm on fucking a podcast. Nah. You know what I mean? Thanks for telling me that. Now I'm going to tell everybody.
Yeah, right.
Because we I think it's a firm belief. We feel like the whole industry can only benefit from this. And there's more than enough room for, get up and go kayaks. And, I know Chris Woodruff was on our show. He's in your area. I don't think he's competing with you because he's not doing tours necessarily. He's renting kayaks, but there's enough room for everybody. I think.
100%. Yeah. And I'm glad you brought up Chris, because we were just on a phone call like 2 days ago. He was calling me and picking my brain about something in the franchising process. So like, I am an open book. I want other people to be an open book. Like, there's no secret to what anyone is doing. If people are just doing things differently than the next person, like, there's no secret. There's no like hidden gem anywhere. It's just trial and error and figuring out what works the best for your company, for your brand, whatever it is that you're doing. There's not going to be a secret. Someone's not going to one day walk up to you and be like, yo, if you did this, you would make millions of dollars. Like, everything is already out there for you to make millions of dollars. You just have to figure out what works, like, I don't know. I wish I'm on the same page of you. Like, I wish there was more water sports people that showed up to the conference. And like, I go to the water sports table at lunchtime at the Arrival conference, and there's like 3 people there. It's like me, Chris, and some guy from Crystal River. I'm like, I want more people sitting at these tables, like
we were having lunch. We had a table. There was I think it was just like me and Greg and H2O. And then there was some dude we were all splintered out, man. Like, so we got to crew up at the next Arrival.
I want like 30 tables. I don't want 2 tables with 4 of us spread out at each table.
Yeah, and let's all get fucked up and beat up the cheese tour guys.
Yeah.
Bitch, I'm drunk on rum. I'll fuck you up, man. Don't know me. Yo, Buzzi, hit it. And you start rapping. They're like, what the fuck? Where do these guys fucking come from, man?
Right? We got to go to like a karaoke bar or something.
Dude, big facts.
Since it's in Orlando, I mean, I'm sure Justin can take us to a couple good places. I mean,
there we go.
So, I mean, obviously,
bro, Greg, they're not going to let you into a rap venue, bro. You don't got the hood pass, homie. I mean, I don't know how Justin
got a couple months to work on it.
So wait a minute. I did live in Orlando for a few years. I went to UC. I'm alumni too. I don't know if I mentioned that in the beginning, but I used to go downtown like every weekend, and I would go to like the nightclubs. I never danced or anything, but I would go to like nightclubs.
He was there.
You?
I went to
I did. I mean, I went to the cool places. So that's just but I wasn't the cool person. I just went there.
You fucking kill me, dude.
Justin, I mean, I graduated about 7 years before you, 6 years before you, but is Antigua still there in downtown Fort Walton? Or downtown Orlando?
I don't think so. No, I don't recognize the name.
What about is it the Shark Club with the girls and the swings?
I don't think I've been to that one.
Okay, they're before your time, but yeah, that's where everybody went.
What were you doing, Greg?
I go to like a lot of the music venues. I'm not a big club person myself. I'll go to the music venues, which kind of are hand in hand with the clubs, but I go to a lot of the music venues.
I know it's kind of corny, but
you open up like a new Pandora's box of shit that you just like never told me before. Like it comes out on the show. It's like, man, I'm really into like historical. What is it? Historical fantasy, like Game of Thrones, right? Like you love that shit.
I know Last Kingdom, like 9th and 10th century. Yeah, I love Last Kingdom.
I love it, man. Like I want to see you at a club, dude. Like I want to see you fucking cut it up, man. I bet you're a hell of a dancer.
I don't know, I do like. See, I live near iDrive, so I would go to Hall at the Moon all the time. I like the piano bars.
See, now the piano bars, I mean, I would listen. I say the same thing because can you fucking imagine me at a club? If I were like, yeah, man, I showed up. I used to fucking go to clubs. You'd be like, to do what? Were you to fucking get thrown out? Were you a bouncer there for $8 an hour? Oh man. Yeah, I don't know. I when I go to Orlando, I mean, I go to Charlie's Steakhouse. I go to, oh, dude, if you've ever listened to the fucking show, you know, me and Greg are both at fucking Disney. I'm always getting escorted out. They're like, excuse me, homeless man, what are you doing inside of our park? You know, I'm like, no, I paid. Anyway.
So wait, so are we going to bring up Disney again in another episode?
We have to.
We have to.
Wait, so fucking sponsor us or what, dude?
I'm waiting for it.
I know, at least like 5% off, or maybe some fast passes or something. We literally give them commercials to tens of people. Tens. Walt Disney World. Respect.
Yeah. So Justin, how can someone learn more about Get Up and Go Kayaking? Or get information about franchising?
Yeah, best place is usually to start on our website, which is just getupandgokayaking.com. We have a franchise tab there. But if you have already done that, want to just reach out directly, you can always shoot me an email. I oversee our contact email, so just contact@getupandgokayaking.com. Or follow me on socials, hit me up there. Like, I don't mind having conversations in DMs on Twitter, Instagram, which is just _Buzzi, Buzzi. Anywhere, I don't know. Just you'll find us if you search Get Up and Go Kayaking and just contact us. I'll get a hold. I'll find it somehow.
Listen, me and Greg are both gonna be sliding up your DMs, bro. We love you. I'm gonna be all up in that shit.
Justin, you got the perfect last name for anything marketing. Like you're building a Buzz podcast. I mean, how perfect is that?
I know it worked out well. It was kind of like a good like stage name too. Like my rap name is J Buzzi. So it I don't know. I liked it. Yeah, I considered it just making it J Buzz instead of with the I in the end. But the I is what keeps me Italian, so I got to keep it there.
I love your fiance's name, Tiance, the fiance.
Yeah,
that's
she's
pretty
now
good too.
Tiance, the fiance. Yeah, her real name is Christia, but we call her Tia, and then it turned into Tiance, and then it turned into Tiance, the fiance. So it just keeps evolving. I don't know.
You know what's even cooler is that she was an FBI agent. Is that right? Is that true?
She was not, but she.
No, I think he meant that metaphorically, dude.
Yeah, metaphorically.
I mean, obviously, I sounded like legit. Like I'm listening to your show.
I think we need to change the show to Awkward Watersports Guy and fucking Kevin.
That's awesome. But no, she's a franchisee of mine, which makes things interesting sometimes when I'm like, hey, you should try this out.
Is that how you met?
No. We actually met on Instagram, which is pretty interesting. But
dude, you are like the fucking quintessential fucking millennial, dude. Like, every time it's like, I love Gary Vee. Right? I met my fiance on fucking Instagram. Yep. Theoretically, I should fucking hate you, man, but I don't. I hate everything young and cool.
It's crazy. Like all of our franchisees right now are friends and family, and then friends of family. So it's been cool to like be able to give friends and family that kind of opportunity. Like my mom was a manager at this place called Golf World, which just didn't treat her well before she started a Get Up and Go franchise, and like. Now she's at the point where she's like, what do I do with this money? And it's like, I'm so glad that like I could do that for her. My brother, his wife and her parents own a franchise. My fiance's dad owns a franchise. Two of my old coworkers at Golf Now own a franchise. One of my first tour guides owns a franchise. So it's been cool to like be able to give them that opportunity to see them change their life and like, stuff that my mom never thought would be possible in life. She's been able to do because of it. So it's been mind blowing for me. It's cool.
That's awesome. Well, yeah. I think that wraps it up. Justin, I appreciate you coming on the show. This was very eye opening. I think you're one of the very few probably companies in the country that offer franchising for water sports. There's a couple other ones in Florida that we might have to get on the show and talk to as well, because it's something really cool. I mean, like you said, it takes the whole learning curve out of it when you decide to go to franchise. And for that startup cost, you can't quantify what it is to get all that experience, and you're not going to make all the same mistakes as you would if you started fresh. Even as something as simple, as a kayak tour, it sounds simple in nature. There's a lot goes into it and a lot to actually make it a Get Up and Go kayak, the brand that you've created. It's like, it reminds me of like, when I think of franchising, I think of McDowell's from Coming to America. He's always trying to stay ahead and copy McDonald's.
They got the Big Mac. I got the Big Mick. No, listen, I mean, I got to echo that a little bit, bro. Like, first of all, I think you should do your own Gary Vee shit and call yourself Buzzi B.
Hey, there we go.
Buzzi B. You've never heard that one before, have you?
Never.
But I think, man, it's like anytime I ever thought about like expanding outward with Destiny on like something I couldn't be around or touch, like kayaking for franchising, I think is it's low impact. And the reason I ask these insurance questions, because it's like we all get that thought, but when you think about like parasail, when you think about jet skis, when you're not thinking about not being on the ground and making sure that these standards and practices are going to be adhered to, that your safety measures are going to be adhered to, that you're trusting your future in somebody else's hands by being like the parent company. So it's like I always thought that kayaking would be such a super dope way to do that. And I think, man, I can't take anything away from that or say like, yeah, you know, I just, at the end of the day, to have that marketing, to have that underneath you to get started. Because if not, you're just like, you know, Bill, like delivering kayaks out there. So like, because I rent kayaks, marketing kayaks is not fucking easy. You know what I mean? Like I got jet skis, I got boats, I got crab on, parasail. You know what I mean? It's like, boom, like that's fucking easy. Kayaks and kayak tours, like to rank, like there's low search. I've looked, I know there's low search volume in almost everywhere. There's nowhere that's like the kayak fucking capital of the world, unless you're going to like maybe Alaska or something like that. So you don't have like a ton of traffic. So if you're going to go into a new market and try and like dominate the kayak world, starting from the ground up, you know, to scale, that's not easy. So
it's all top of funnel. And in order to create top of funnel, you got to go to Instagram and travel sites and influencers. That's hard. That is extremely hard to do. And like we had Ryan Turner from Your Biker Gang, he's just starting to franchise and he's going through the same thing of it's very difficult, you know, to run. But Justin, thanks again for coming on the show. This was awesome. And
I'm writing you a check right now, man.
we look
make it out to Buzzi B.
Buzzi B.
we look forward to having you you know, continue the conversation in our Facebook group, Water Sports and Tour Professionals, and hopefully we'll see you in Orlando in October at the Arrival concert. So Justin, thanks again. And for everyone listening, keep it awkward.
You've been listening to the Awkward Watersport Guys podcast. If you're in the water sport industry, this is the podcast that brings the business perspective to parasailing, jet and ski boat rentals, sailing, snorkeling, and everything else. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from this show. Be sure to sign up to our email list at watersportpodcast.com and subscribe in your favorite podcast app. We'll see you next time, and thanks for listening.